Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If copy system in Naruto. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name in the description below. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 131, Injuring the Tsuchikage, Destroying Supplies. Anoki stared at Shin's eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, his already grim expression darkening. Mangekyo Sharingan. He gritted his teeth. He had a deep-seated fear of the Mangekyo Sharingan. When he was younger, he had accompanied his teacher, Mu, to Konoha for a diplomatic mission, hoping to form an alliance. But they had encountered Uchiha Madara, who humiliated and injured them. Shin looked at Anoki, not bothering to explain. There was no need to explain the difference between the Mangekyo Sharingan and the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan to an enemy. Anoki, remember the fear of being dominated by these eyes? Shin asked with a smirk, deliberately poking at Anoki's sore spot. Anoki's eyes flickered nervously. He couldn't meet Shin's gaze. Wow, the great Tsuchikage is too scared to even look at me. Anoki was about to explode. Who didn't know how powerful the Sharingan's genjutsu was? Only an idiot would look into his eyes. Anoki, don't tell me Madara traumatized you, Shin said. How did you know? Anoki was shocked. Few knew about his encounter with Madara. He had only been a teenager then, and Shin hadn't even been born yet. How could he know? That's not important. What is important is that sneak attacks are a bad habit. Shin glanced behind him and kicked Rashi, who had been trying to attack him, sending him flying. Trying to sneak up on him while he was talking to Anoki? Rashi was underestimating him. I thought you didn't notice. Kushina and Makoto arrived. They had seen Rashi's attempted sneak attack and rushed over to warn Shin. But Shin had already dealt with Rashi. Kushina, Makoto, have you forgotten I have the mind's eye of Kagura? It's impossible to sneak up on me. Anoki's eyes gleamed as he saw Kushina and Makoto. Shin might be strong, but his companions weren't. Earth Release, Rock Fist Jutsu. He didn't use Dust Release. He was hesitant after his previous failure. Dust Release consumed a lot of chakra, and he didn't know how Shin had neutralized it. His target wasn't Shin, but Kushina. Kushina looked at the approaching Anoki, eager to fight. But Shin stopped her. Kushina, you're not strong enough to fight him. Kushina couldn't maintain Sage Mode for long. She might be able to match Anoki in Sage Mode, but without it, she was no match for a Kage at the peak of his power. Genjutsu, Tsukuyomi. Anoki collapsed. In the real world, it was just an instant, but in the Genjutsu world, 3 days had passed. After taking down Anoki with a single genjutsu, Shin turned his attention to Rashi, the Four-Tails Jinchuriki. Rashi was covered in lava release chakra mode, similar to the Raikage lightning release chakra mode. With his body encased in lava, he could melt anything he touched. He was a tough opponent. As a Jinchuriki, Rashi was strong, but he was no match for Shin. You took down that Tsuchikage. Can I deal with this guy? Kushina asked Shin. It's not that I don't want you to, but you can't defeat him, Shin said helplessly. Kushina, know your limits. You're clearly not strong enough, Makoto said. Fine. Kushina reluctantly backed down. Ice Release, Ice Prison Jutsu. Shin trapped Rashi in an ice prison. Even with his lava release, Rashi couldn't melt it in a short time. Let's go destroy Iwa's supplies. Shin ignored the unconscious Anoki and the trapped Rashi and headed towards the IWA supply depot. Shin, aren't you going to kill the old man? Kushina asked. I think it's better for the 5 great villages to maintain a balance of power. Let him live. Shin glanced at Anoki, then led Kushina and Makoto to the supply depot. Fire Style, Great Dragon Fire Jutsu. Makoto unleashed a massive fire dragon, engulfing the supplies in flames. The explosive tags stored among the supplies detonated. I finally contributed something, Makoto said with a smile. She hadn't been able to do much in this attack. Congratulations, Master. Mission complete. Reward, Advanced Replication Card X1. The system's voice echoed in Shin's mind. System, can an advanced replication card copy Dust Release? No. Dust Release is a Kekii Tota and cannot be copied. Shin was disappointed. Dust Release was powerful. He couldn't copy it with an advanced replication card. Since the mission was complete, there was no need to stay here. Let's go back. Shin opened a Yamatsu Hirasaka portal and left with Kushina and Mikoto. As soon as they left, the IWA shinobi arrived, their eyes bloodshot at the sight of the destroyed supplies. Quick! Find that Tsuchikage! Kitsuchi yelled, his voice filled with panic. Their supplies had been destroyed. That meant his father had been defeated. And leave some men to extinguish the flames. Salvage what you can. Kitsuchi rushed off to find Inoki. He found Inoki unconscious, his mind damaged by Shin's genjutsu. The IWA shinobi panicked and called for medics. Rashi, who had broken out of the ice prison with the help of other IWA shinobi, sighed, his expression grim. Rashi, where's Uzumaki Shin? Kitsuchi asked, his eyes red. He must have escaped, Rashi said, clutching his injured leg. He was trying to save face. Shin had simply left. Damn it! I'll kill him! Kitsuchi yelled, rushing out. But he was stopped by other IWA shinobi. Even their respected Tsuchikage wasn't a match for Shin. Kitsuchi would be no different. Chapter 132, at worst, we can just leave Konoha. The commotion at the IWA camp had reached a fever pitch, but Shin and his team were already back in Konoha. Tsunade, why are you looking at us like that? Shin asked, noticing Tsunade's strange expression. Shin and did you fail the mission? Konan rushed over, her face full of worry. Fail? No way. We destroyed Iwa's supplies. Kushina declared proudly. They might not have destroyed the supplies during transport, but they had completed the mission nonetheless. Huh? Tsunade was confused. The whole camp is saying you failed. Yeah, I even heard some people badmouthing Shin and They were blaming him. Konan said, her eyes filled with anger. Is that so? Shin pondered the situation. News of his mission failure had spread even before he returned? Someone must be behind this. Someone's spreading rumors. Tsunade said, her voice laced with anger. No, it's not that simple. Shin shook his head. The mission was actually going to fail. We went to the location provided in the intel, but the IWA transport never showed up. The intel was fake. If this had happened before, Shin would have assumed it was just faulty intel. But now he knew better. The intel was deliberately false. Someone had sabotaged him. His mission was meant to fail. If he hadn't received the system mission, he wouldn't have attacked the IWA camp and destroyed their supplies. The mission would have failed. The intel was fake? Tsunade frowned. Yes, it was fake. The Sandaime Hokage gave me false intel. He must be trying to damage my reputation. Shin analyzed the situation. He had been on the battlefield for a while now. He knew his reputation among the Konoha shinobi was high. Perhaps Hiruzen felt threatened by his popularity. This incident was definitely related to Hiruzen and Danzo. And this tactic seemed familiar. It reminded Shin of Tsukumo Hataki's tragic fate. No wonder they only gave me a mission scroll for such an important mission. Hiruzen should have given him a proper briefing. But he had just handed him a scroll. He must have known Shin would fail. Unfortunately for Hiruzen and Danzo, Shin had infiltrated the IWA camp and destroyed their supplies. Shin, do you think this is related to the Sandaime? Tsunade asked. What do you think? Shin countered. I think it is. And Danzo is probably involved too, Tsunade said angrily. Let's go confront that old man. Tsunade stood up. No need. He'll come to us soon. Shin pulled her back down. That old man Hiruzen, always acting so kind and benevolent. I can't believe he'd do such a thing, Kushina said angrily, then glanced at Tsunade. Kushina, what are you looking at me for? Tsunade frowned. She didn't like the look in Kushina's eyes. Hiruzen is a bad guy. And I remember you're his student. Tsunade grabbed Kushina. She understood what Kushina was implying. Kushina, don't forget, you're my student too. Aren't you insulting yourself? Tsunade glared at her. I was just kidding, Tsunade-nichan. Let go of me. Kushina quickly surrendered. She couldn't win against Tsunade like this. Shin, what are you going to do? Mikoto asked. We completed the mission. There's nothing to do. As for the future, we'll see. We can always leave Konoha. Shin said with a chuckle. It's not that serious, is it? Tsunade looked at Shin, her anger towards Kushina forgotten. It is. If Konoha doesn't want me, I won't stay. You know I'm not that attached to this village, Tsunade. Shin's expression was serious. No matter what you choose, I'll support you, Tsunade said with a sigh. Shin waited for Hiruzen to arrive, but he didn't. Instead, it was Danzo. Uzumaki Shin, I'm here to hold you accountable. Danzo blared at Shin. Danzo, have you forgotten how you groveled before me last time? Shin activated his Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, his aura pressing down on Danzo. Danzo might be acting calm, but the sweat on his forehead betrayed his fear. Uzumaki Shin, what are you doing? Danzo didn't dare meet Shin's gaze. He was afraid of Shin's Jinjutsu. Tsunade looked at the fearful Danzo, then remembered the last time Shin had used Jinjutsu on him and she had beaten him up. She understood why he was scared. Chapter 133, Nawaki who survived the crisis. Not long after, Danzo left with a grim expression. Shin didn't waste time with pleasantries. He told Danzo that the mission to destroy Iwa's supplies was complete, and if he didn't believe it, he could go check himself. He also threatened to kill Danzo if he caused any more trouble. Whether Danzo took the threat seriously or not, Shin meant it. He then sent Danzo away. You let him go just like that? Kushina was dissatisfied. She wanted to put Danzo in his place. I don't know why, but every time I see Danzo's face, I have the urge to punch him, Mikoto said. I feel the same way, Kushina agreed. Alright, let's make dinner. I'm starving. Shin interrupted them. After leaving Shin, Danzo went straight to Hiruzen's Sarutobi. Hiruzen, my plan failed. Uzumaki Shin completed the mission. He infiltrated the IWA camp and destroyed their supplies, Danzo reported. What? Hiruzen frowned. Infiltrated the IWA camp and destroyed their supplies? He doubted it. You can send someone to investigate. If it's true, we can attack IWA now. Danzo left after delivering his message. Not long after he left, the rumors of Shin's mission failure disappeared and were replaced with praise for his success. The previous rumors were now blamed on enemy spies spreading misinformation. This was Danzo's doing. He was only acting out of fear. Shin had threatened to kill him if he heard any more slander. Danzo was furious, but he ultimately backed down. Shin's threat seemed genuine. And Shin was only 12. Who knew what a hot-headed kid might do? After all, Shin had attacked him before. Danzo works fast. Shin had only finished eating, and the rumors had already changed. He recalled asking Danzo to find Uchiha Ryota. Danzo had delivered the information within 3 days. He was efficient. Perhaps Shin could use him for other tasks in the future. As for whether Danzo would agree, that was simple. Just threaten his life. Your reputation seems to have improved. Happy? Tsunade asked Shin. Happy? Please. I don't care about that, Shin scoffed. Shin, are you interested in becoming Hokage? Tsunade asked seriously. Why are you asking? Shin looked at her, confused. If you want to be Hokage, I can help you. The Senju clan might have declined, but their influence remained. If Tsunade supported Shin, some of the other clans would too. Of course, Shin had to be capable. And he was. He had the strength and the brains. Tsunade felt he would make a great Hokage. Tsunade, have you forgotten? Your brother Nawaki's dream is to become Hokage. You should help him. I have no interest in that position. And I wouldn't make a good Hokage anyway. Shin refused. He wasn't interested in the Hokage position. It held no appeal to him. Power? He didn't need it. To him, strength was everything. Nawaki's personality isn't suited for being Hokage. I think you'd be perfect. First, it doesn't matter what you think. And don't forget, I wasn't originally from Konoha. I can't become Hokage. Alright, let's not talk about this anymore. Shin didn't want to continue this pointless discussion. He had never wanted to be Hokage and didn't have deep feelings for Konoha. Fine, but if you change your mind, let me know. I won't. Don't be so sure. You might change your mind one day. Come on, let's go back to the tent. It's raining again. Tsunade looked up at the falling rain. I have to go do something. Shin suddenly said, then opened a Yamatsu Hirasaka portal and stepped through it. He didn't even say what he was doing. I'll get him back for this. Tsunade grumbled. Shin used Yamatsu Hirasaka to teleport back to his house in Konoha. There was someone sitting in the courtyard, looking bewildered. It was Nawaki. He was staring at his hands in confusion. You were in danger, weren't you? Shin's voice startled Nawaki. How did you know? And aren't you on the battlefield? I'm a fortune teller. I can predict the future. Shin, did you save me? Nawaki remembered falling into an explosive trap. The tags had detonated, and then he had fallen into a dark void, ending up here. Shin nodded. Sort of. The transcription seal he had implanted in Nawaki's eyes had activated. Tenmamai had saved his life, and Yamatsu Hirasaka had transported him to Shin's courtyard. Shin had set the destination for Yamatsu Hirasaka to be his courtyard when he applied the transcription seal. How did you do it? Nawaki asked. I can't tell you that. You just had a brush with death, Nawaki. Tell me what happened. Nawaki's expression darkened. It was that bastard Kai. He pushed me into an explosive trap. Shin was surprised. He hadn't expected Kai to be involved. What happened? Why would Kai do that? Shin asked. I don't know. He just attacked me and pushed me into a trap filled with explosive tags. Nawaki didn't understand why Kai would try to kill him. They had their differences, but it wasn't that serious. Chapter 134, The Necklace Left by Shodame. Nawaki, can you explain what happened? Shin asked. Nawaki nodded. We were on a mission to secretly escort a batch of medicine to the battlefield. Wait, they gave you a mission that important? Shin interrupted, incredulous. Medicine was crucial on the battlefield. Shin couldn't believe they would entrust such a mission to Nawaki and his team. The ninja who gave us the mission said it was because we're weak and inconspicuous. That it would be safer that way, Nawaki explained. So it was just you, Kai, and Hizashi? Yes. And we were attacked. Kai and I stayed behind to hold them off while Hizashi escaped with the medicine. Staying behind to fight? You're quite brave, aren't you? Shin looked at Nawaki. It was Kai's idea. Yes, but you didn't refuse, did you? Even if he hadn't suggested it, you would have stayed, right? Shin knew Nawaki well. If he and his teammates were in danger, he would sacrifice himself to ensure their safety. Nawaki scratched his head. The ninjas who attacked us weren't that strong. Kai and I managed to repel them, but then Kai attacked me. Nawaki's voice was filled with anger. It seems this was planned, Shin said. First, the mission itself was suspicious. It could be a trap. And the attackers were probably working with Kai. Danzo might be involved. Shin suspected Danzo. He was the only one who would do such a thing. Kai had been in Konoha the whole time, he couldn't have been working with enemies from other villages. If he was working with the attackers, then they were Konoha shinobi. And the only one who would target Nawaki was Danzo. Hiruzen wouldn't do that. Nawaki was different from the other Senju. He was Tsunade's brother and the grandson of the Shodame Hokage. Hiruzen wouldn't harm him. Danzo? Nawaki's eyes widened. I'm 80% sure this was a trap set for you, orchestrated by Danzo, Shin said. Danzo might be on the battlefield, but he still had Root and his subordinates in Konoha. He could easily arrange something like this. If Shin was right, then Kai was working for Danzo. But Shin wasn't surprised. Uzumaki Hikaru had also joined Root and revealed Shin's Uchiha lineage to Danzo. That's impossible. Danzo is the Hokage's advisor. Why would he target me? Nawaki couldn't believe it. Who knows what that geezer is thinking? But you're quite valuable, Nawaki. Shin looked at him. Nawaki was the grandson of Hashirama Senju. Perhaps Danzo wanted to capture him for research. It wasn't impossible. Danzo might hate the Uchiha clan, but he coveted their Sharingan. And he was even more interested in the legendary wood release. What value could I possibly have? Nawaki asked, confused. You're the grandson of Hashirama Senju. That's your value. By the way, lend me your necklace for a while. Shin looked at the necklace Nawaki was wearing. You want this? Here. Nawaki took it off and handed it to Shin. Sis gave it to me. She said it was a keepsake from Grandpa. That it might protect me. Shin almost scoffed. That necklace wasn't a charm, it was a curse. Whoever wore it died. Only Naruto, with his incredible vitality, could withstand it. Stay in the Senju compound for now. Don't go on any missions. Focus on improving your strength. Do you want me to help you get revenge? Shin asked. No, I'll do it myself, Nawaki said, his eyes filled with determination. Fine. But you need to get stronger. Otherwise, you won't even be able to avenge yourself. Don't underestimate me, Shin. That Kai bastard is no match for me. He's just a pawn. Even if you can defeat him, what then? Will that be enough for revenge? I'm going back to the battlefield now. Shin opened a Yamatsu Hirasaka portal and stepped through it. Nawaki was frustrated. Shin had left too quickly. He still had questions. He wanted to know how Shin had saved him. But even if he asked, Shin wouldn't tell him. Shin returned to the battlefield, the long-distance teleportation consuming a significant amount of chakra and ocular power. But he could handle it. With his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and his massive chakra reserves, he had plenty to spare. He examined the necklace, sensing its unique properties. He had asked for it because it was a crystal made from Hashirama Senju's chakra. It contained Hashirama's power and could even be used to suppress tailed beasts. Of course, Shin didn't need it for that. To him, tailed beasts were just pets. He wanted to study Hashirama's power, specifically his wood release. He had been wanting to learn wood release for a while now, but he hadn't had the time. Now he did. He couldn't copy wood release. Hashirama was dead. To copy it from him, he'd have to use Edo Tensei. There was also Madara Uchiha, who probably knew wood release, but Shin didn't know where he was hiding. He had to rely on himself. Hopefully, this necklace would help. Chapter 135, The Wood Release Jutsu from Tsunade. Shin put away the necklace and returned to the tent he shared with Tsunade. She had insisted they conserve resources and stay with her. Shin hadn't objected. It was a good arrangement for him. He'd be an idiot to refuse. But when he returned, the atmosphere was strange. Kushina, Makoto, and Konan were silent, while Tsunade was staring blankly into space, a heartbroken expression on her face. "What's wrong?" Shin asked. Kushina glanced at him, then gestured for him to come outside. Once they were outside, Shin learned the reason. Tsunade had just been informed of Nawaki's death. Shin chuckled. "Who told you Nawaki's dead?" "He's not." "Really?" "Of course. I just saw him. He's fine." "Shin, don't tell me you saw a ghost," Kushina said, her eyes wide with worry. "There are no ghosts, Kushina. Nawaki's alive. I used the transcription seal to implant my dojutsu abilities in his eyes," Shin said. "So Nawaki's really alive?" "Of course. Do you think I'd lie to you?" "That's great." Kushina rushed back into the tent and yelled, "Tsunade, Shin said Nawaki's not dead." Tsunade looked up, then lowered her head, clearly not believing her. "Nawaki's really alive, Tsunade. You know the life-saving dojutsu I implanted in your eyes? I did the same for Nawaki. That's why he's not dead. Remember when I said I had something to do? I went to check on him." Shin entered the tent. Tsunade's eyes lit up, and she rushed over to Shin, grabbing his arm. "Shin, is Nawaki really alive?" "Of course. You recognize this, right? I borrowed it from Nawaki." Shin showed her the necklace she had given Nawaki. Tsunade was finally convinced. "Come on, I'll take you to see him. That way, you can rest assured." Shin opened a Yamatsu Hirasaka portal and pulled Tsunade through it. "Wait for us." Kushina, Makoto, and Konan followed. "We're home?" Makoto looked around the familiar courtyard in surprise. They had teleported from the Land of Fire's border back to Konoha in an instant. Nawaki must have gone home. "Let's go find him." Shin knew Nawaki wasn't here. They arrived at Nawaki's house, and he was indeed there. He was surprised to see them. "Shin? Aren't you on the battlefield? And big sis, why are you back?" Thump! Tsunade punched Nawaki, sending him tumbling to the ground. Shin walked over and pulled Nawaki up like a radish. "Big sis, what was that for?" "You almost killed me," Nawaki complained. "Oomph, you called me big? Do I look that big?" Tsunade glared at him, but seeing him safe and sound, she sighed in relief. "What happened?" "I heard you died on the battlefield." Nawaki explained what had happened. Tsunade was furious when she heard the truth. "That Kai is an ungrateful bastard," she yelled. He had been living in the Senju compound when he first came to Konoha. The Senju clan had taken him in, and Mito had even taught him Fuinjutsu. But Kai felt no gratitude towards the Senju clan. In fact, he resented them. This was partly due to Shin. He felt like he and Shin were treated differently by the Senju clan. "I'll kill him when I see him," Tsunade declared. "No, sis. I'll avenge myself." "You don't have to worry about it," Nawaki said. Tsunade looked at him, and Nawaki's expression was serious. "Fine, but if you need help, just let me know. Don't be shy, you're my brother. By the way, Shin, why did you want this necklace?" Tsunade asked Shin. "I wanted to research wood release. I thought this might help." Shin held the necklace, sensing the strong life force within it. "You're researching wood release?" Tsunade looked at him in surprise. "Yeah, it's so powerful." "I don't think there's anyone who doesn't want to learn it," Shin nodded. "You should have said something. We have Grandpa's Jutsu scrolls. They might be useful." "Wait here." Tsunade left, then returned with a large scroll. "This contains all of Grandpa's wood release jutsu. Most of the Senju have seen it, but no one has been able to awaken wood release, so they can't use it. She handed the scroll to Shin, who accepted it gratefully. Thank you, Tsunade. Why are you being so polite? Tsunade glared at him playfully. If I were being polite, I wouldn't have accepted it. Shin unfurled the scroll. He skimmed through the wood release jutsu, then focused on Hashirama's notes on wood release. The jutsu were useless to him now. He didn't have the wood release Kekkei Jinkai. Even if he learned them, he couldn't use them. Any progress? Tsunade asked. I just started reading. How could I have made any progress? Shin shook his head. He needed time to research. But he was confident he could awaken wood release. Shin, don't push yourself too hard. Many talented Senju have tried to awaken wood release, but none have succeeded. I'm different, Tsunade. Perhaps wood release will be revived through me. Shin smiled confidently. He had the same perfect sage body as Hashirama. With the information in the scroll and Hashirama's chakra crystal, he was confident he could master wood release. Chapter 136, Surprise Attack. Ambushed. Uzumaki Kai, are you sure Senju Nawaki is dead? Danzo looked at Kai and asked. I pushed him into the trap myself. There's no way he could have survived, Kai replied. Then where's his body? I told you I wanted his body, Danzo pressed. I couldn't find it. The explosive tags must have blown him to bits. Even if there were no bones left, there should be something remaining. Are you playing me for a fool, Kai? Danzo's eyes narrowed dangerously. I am not. There was nothing left. The ground was blown into a crater. Kai quickly explained. Danzo stared at him, then said, Don't breathe a word of this to anyone. You know the consequences. He didn't want this information leaking out. Tsunade would be furious if she learned of Nawaki's death, and if she found out he was involved, she would come after him with a vengeance. He wasn't afraid of Tsunade, but there was also Uzumaki Shin. He looked at Kai thoughtfully. Kai shifted uncomfortably under his gaze. Kai was already regretting joining Root. But it was too late to back out now. Danzo-sama, I hope you haven't forgotten our agreement, Kai said. I haven't. Even if you didn't remind me, I wouldn't forget. Danzo had agreed to help Kai win over Akiko and eliminate Shin and Minato. Kai had a grudge against Shin and saw Minato as a rival. Danzo dismissed Kai. After Kai left, a Root agent, one of Danzo's trusted subordinates, emerged. Danzo-sama, why not eliminate him? If he leaks this information, it could be troublesome. No, he's still useful. I need him to help me control the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. Danzo wasn't going to kill Kai yet. He was still valuable. And there was another reason. Shin had both Uzumaki and Uchiha blood. He was incredibly strong. What if he implanted the Sharingan in Kai? Shin and his team had returned to the battlefield. That jutsu was so convenient, Shin, Kushina said enviously. Kushina, do you want it too? Shin asked. Kushina's eyes lit up. Can you give it to me? No, I was just asking. Kushina's excitement vanished, and she glared at Shin. Why get her hopes up for nothing? They had just returned when they received news that the Sandaime Hokage was gathering forces for a surprise attack on Iwa that night. Hiruzen had sent shinobi to investigate and confirmed that Shin had indeed destroyed Iwa's supplies. And Inoki was injured. Hiruzen wasn't going to let this opportunity slip. Konoha was currently fighting Iwa, Kumo, Suna, and Amigakure. The pressure was immense. He had to gain an advantage somewhere. He had initially planned to target Suna, but his plans had changed. He had tried to sabotage Shin, but it hadn't worked. But there was a silver lining. With their supplies destroyed and Inoki injured, this was a good time to attack Iwa. Report to the Sandaime Hokage that I was injured on my last mission and can't participate in tonight's attack, Shin said to the messenger. He then sent the messenger away. We're really not going? Kushina and Makoto asked. Of course not. I'd rather research would release. Shin nodded. He was still annoyed at Hiruzen for trying to sabotage him. What about you, Tsunade? Kushina asked. Kushina, call me Nachan. Show some respect. Tsunade glared at her. TCH, who are you trying to intimidate with that stern face? So what if you're a little older than me? I'm not calling you Nachan. Kushina refused. She used to call Tsunade Nachan because she was weaker, but now she felt she could challenge Tsunade. Humph, I don't have time to deal with you now, but I will later. You'll be begging me to be your Nachan. Night fell. At 1 a.m, the Konoha forces were ready. Under Hiruzen's command, they charged towards the IWA camp. Almost all of Konoha's forces were mobilized. Hiruzen led the charge, followed by Danzo, Tsukumo, Orochimaru, and Jiraiya. Hiruzen was determined to force IWA to surrender. Tsunade didn't go. She had initially planned to participate, but Hiruzen had ordered her to stay and guard the camp. They couldn't leave the camp undefended. Hiruzen led the assault on the IWA camp. They didn't bother with stealth. With over 3,000 elite Konoha shinobi, they didn't need to. They could crush IWA in a head-on attack. But as they easily broke through Iwa's defenses, Hiruzen felt a sense of unease. There was barely any resistance. Hokage-sama, something's wrong, Tsukumo Hatake said. He also felt it was too easy. Iwa's defenses couldn't be this weak. This is a trap. We've been tricked. Hiruzen yelled. Just then, an explosion sounded in the distance. Explosive tags. Many Konoha shinobi were caught in the blast. Don't underestimate explosive tags. Even Jonin could be killed by them. More explosions followed. Hiruzen's face darkened. Chapter 137, in the end, it's up to me to save Konoha. So, I was right. The Konoha shinobi did launch a surprise attack on our camp. Anoki said to the third Kazekage, the third Raikage, and Hanzo of the Salamander, his face pale. He had recovered from Shin's genjutsu, but his mind was still wounded. He needed time to heal. As expected of the Tsuchikage. You predicted Konoha's movements perfectly, Hanzo said, impressed. I expect everyone to give their best effort. We must annihilate the Konoha forces this time, Anoki said. He didn't want anyone holding back. This is our only chance. Don't waste it. The Kazekage and the others understood. They wouldn't hold back. They led the Suna forces into battle. The Konoha shinobi had entered the IWA camp, but it was a trap. The 4 villages had them surrounded. Tsukumo, I have a mission for you. You must complete it. Hiruzen said to Tsukumo Hatake with a serious expression. Your orders, Hokage-sama. Break out and inform Tsunade of our situation. Tell her to ask Uzumaki Shin for help. Hiruzen suspected Shin had seen through his scheme. Shin might be young, but he was intelligent. If Hiruzen ordered Shin to help, Shin might refuse. After all, he had refused to participate in this attack. So he had to play the emotional card and have Tsunade ask Shin for help. He was confident Tsunade could convince Shin. Yes, Hokage-sama. Tsukumo accepted the mission without hesitation. Orochimaru, Jiraiya, you two will cover Tsukumo's escape, Hiruzen said to his disciples. Even Tsukumo couldn't escape this encirclement without help. He was strong, but he couldn't ignore the attacks of so many shinobi. And the enemy also had powerful fighters. If Tsukumo was stopped, the others wouldn't be able to escape. Orochimaru and Jiraiya didn't say anything. They used their jutsu to create an opening for Tsukumo. Hidden Shadow Snake Hands. Orochimaru unleashed his signature jutsu, summoning countless snakes. Even Jiraiya backed away in disgust. That guy's jutsu is getting creepier and creepier. Where does he even learn this stuff? Jiraiya grumbled. But he knew this wasn't the time to complain. He had to help Tsukumo escape. Fire style, Great Fireball Jutsu. Jiraiya unleashed a massive fireball, incinerating several IWA shinobi. The IWA shinobi countered with Earth Release, blocking Jiraiya's attack. Tsukumo seized the opportunity and used the lightning flicker technique to enhance his speed, breaking through the enemy lines. The so-called lightning flicker technique involves using lightning release chakra to stimulate one's cells, allowing for a short burst of extreme speed. He had developed this technique himself. However, it also put a great strain on his body. He wouldn't use it unless it was absolutely necessary. Tsukumo successfully escaped and rushed towards the Konoha camp. He soon arrived. Hiruzen had chosen him for this task because of his speed. He found Tsunade and explained the situation. Tsunade's expression turned grim. She immediately went to find Shin. Thankfully, Shin hadn't gone out to train. "Tsunade, what's the matter?" Shin asked. "Shin, it's an emergency. The Sandame's forces were ambushed. They're surrounded by 4 villages. Only you can save them." "Ambushed?" Shin was surprised. He had thought the attack would be a success. He hadn't expected Inoki to outsmart them. "Shin, this is not the time to hold grudges." Tsunade knew Shin was angry at Hiruzen, but this was a matter of life and death for Konoha. "Looks like I have to save Konoha again." Shin didn't refuse. Not just because of the divine replication card, but also because of Tsunade's plea. "I'll go now." "I'm coming with you," Tsunade said. "No, if you leave, what if Inoki and the others attack the camp? I can handle this. And you two, stay here." Shin stopped Kushina and Makoto from following. "Be careful, Shin. If you can't win, run. Don't be reckless," Tsunade said. "Yeah, Shin, if you can't win, run. If you die, I won't forgive you." Kushina yelled. "Kushina, what are you saying?" Makoto blared at her. Kushina covered her mouth. "Shin and I, be careful," Conan said. "Don't worry. Those weaklings can't even touch me." Shin was exaggerating, but he wasn't stupid enough to just stand there and let them attack him. He left with Tsukumo Hatake, but Tsukumo's speed on the way was a bit slow. He was fast compared to other shinobi, but not compared to Shin. They really are trapped. Shin arrived at the battlefield. Even in the darkness, he could see the situation clearly. Flames lit up the night sky. And Shin had excellent eyesight. He could see clearly even without activating his Sharingan. Chapter 138, Copying Magnet Release, Fighting 4 Kage. "Since they're here, I'll give them a little greeting." Shin threw a Raisin Shuriken, instantly killing dozens of enemy shinobi. A sneak attack. The unlucky Suna shinobi who were hit cried out. The news quickly reached the 3rd Kazekage. According to their description, it was Uzumaki Shin's jutsu. "Ebizo, you continue the attack on Konoha," the Kazekage said to Ebizo, then rushed towards the source of the attack. Ebizo didn't have time to remind him to be careful and focused on directing the Suna forces. The Kazekage sent out a signal flare as he ran. This was to alert the other Kage. He wasn't stupid enough to face Shin alone. He needed backup. Inoki, the 3rd Raikage, and Hanzo, who were in other locations, immediately headed towards the Kazekage. They had agreed beforehand that if they encountered Shin, they would call for reinforcements. Before they knew Shin's true strength, the 3rd Raikage and Inoki wouldn't have considered this, but now they felt it was the safest option. "Kazekage, long time no see." Shin appeared before the Kazekage, another Raisin Shuriken ready in his hand. He might as well give the Kazekage a gift. The Kazekage quickly used his iron sand to block the Raisin Shuriken. System, use an advanced replication card to copy the 3rd Kazekage's magnet release. The Kazekage's magnet release was worth an advanced replication card. The card vanished, and Shin gained magnet release. He didn't know any magnet release jutsu yet, but he had the Kazekage to teach him. Shin activated his Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. As long as the Kazekage used magnet release jutsu, Shin could copy them. The Sharingan couldn't copy Kekkei Genkai Jutsu, but that was because the user didn't have the necessary bloodline. Shin now had magnet release. He could copy any magnet release jutsu. Magnet release, Iron Sand Drizzle. The Kazekage formed hand seals and summoned a wave of iron sand, shaping it into countless needles that shot towards Shin. The needles were difficult to dodge. On the battlefield, this jutsu was devastating. But to Shin, it was child's play. An ice wall appeared before him, blocking all the needles. Kazekage, is that all you've got? Can't you come up with something new? Shin taunted. I hope you can withstand my other techniques, the Kazekage snorted. A whooshing sound, and the third Raikage appeared, launching a surprise attack on Shin. He used the lightning release chakra mode to enhance his speed, his fist aimed at Shin. Shin's body shattered into ice shards. The third Raikage frowned. As expected, sneak attacks don't work on you. You still tried anyway. I thought you'd fight me head-on, Raikage. Shin said from atop a nearby tree. The third Raikage had struck an ice clone. Since you're all here, why hide? That's no fun. Shin glanced at the shadows, and Inoki and Hanzo emerged. Inoki, you actually dare show your face? I'm surprised. Shin looked at Inoki. He had thought Inoki would be unconscious for at least 10 days after being hit with his genjutsu. But Inoki's willpower was strong. He seemed fine, besides his pale complexion. He might look fine, but only he knew how he felt. His head was pounding. TSK, surrounded by 4 Kage. What an honor. Shin looked at Inoki, the third Kazekage, the third Raikage, and Hanzo. 4 Kage at the peak of their strength. Especially the Raikage, who could probably even challenge a Super Kage-level opponent with his lightning release chakra mode. Attack! Inoki yelled. His head was spinning. He didn't know how much longer he could hold on. He had to finish this quickly. He charged at Shin, using the Rock Fist Jutsu. The Raikage attacked from the other side, and Hanzo swung his Kusarigama. Only the third Kazekage didn't attack. He didn't want to accidentally hit his allies with his wide-range jutsu. You weaklings, even together, you're still weak. Shin unleashed an air bullet, sending Inoki flying before he could even reach him. Rasengan. He dodged the Raikage's fist and slammed a Rasengan into his face, sending him flying as well. The Rasengan couldn't injure the Raikage, though. Magnet release, Iron Sand Drizzle. Shin formed the same hand seals as the Kazekage. Countless iron sand needles shot towards Hanzo. Hanzo, who had been about to attack Shin with his sickle, was forced to defend. How do you know magnet release? The Kazekage was shocked. Is it that difficult? Shin asked calmly, enjoying the Kazekage's dumbfounded expression. The third Raikage was also surprised, but he quickly calmed down. Shin even knew his lightning release chakra mode. This wasn't that surprising anymore. Inoki's expression was the worst. Did Shin know his dust release too? Shin did want to copy dust release. It was far more powerful than magnet release. Inoki had limited chakra, using dust release was a strain on him. But Shin didn't have that problem. With his perfect sage body, he had chakra to spare. Chapter 139, The Strongest Spear versus the Strongest Spear. Kazekage, find a way to restrain Uzumaki Shin. I'll finish him off. Inoki said to the third Kazekage, his voice serious. The Kazekage snapped out of his shock, pushing aside his confusion about Shin's magnet release for now. Dealing with Shin was the priority. Alright, Inoki. I hope you can do it. Magnet release, Iron Sand Cage. The Kazekage trapped Shin in a cage of iron sand. He, the Raikage, and Hanzo then looked at Inoki, curious about his plan. Dust release, detachment of the primitive world technique. Inoki had used dust release on Shin before, but it had failed for some reason. This time, he was confident it would work. The cube-shaped barrier enveloped the iron sand cage, disintegrating it instantly. He didn't believe Shin could survive that. "Kazekage, behind you!" Hanzo yelled, his eyes wide with alarm. The Kazekage sensed the danger and dodged to the side, but a sword still pierced through his body. "You're too careless. Not paying attention to your surroundings? That's how you get killed," Shin said calmly. How did you get behind me?" the Kazekage asked with difficulty, staring at the sword protruding from his chest. He had been trapped in the iron sand cage, then hit by that strange jutsu from Inoki. He shouldn't even exist anymore. "Does it matter?" Shin pulled out his Kusanagi sword. With his spacetime ninjutsu, nothing could trap him. Unless it was a sealing jutsu like the Six Paths Chibaku Tensei. The Kazekage collapsed. He had dodged at the last moment, but he was still severely injured. One down. Shin glanced at the Kazekage, then turned his attention to the Reikage, Inoki, and Hanzo. He had to finish this quickly. Although the four Kage were occupied with him, that didn't mean the Konoha forces could handle the shinobi from the other four villages. They were outnumbered. Even Hiruzen couldn't do much against such overwhelming numbers. And besides the Kage, there were other powerful shinobi among the enemy ranks. If Shin didn't intervene, Konoha would be in serious trouble. Earth Release, Lightweight Rock Technique. Inoki used the lightweight rock technique to reduce his gravity, significantly decreasing his weight and enabling him to fly. "You think you're safe up there?" Shin looked at the airborne Inoki, then used Yamatsu Hirasaka to teleport above him. "Get down. I don't like people looking down on me." Shin kicked Inoki in the back, and a cracking sound echoed through the air. Inoki screamed in pain. "My back!" He plummeted to the ground, landing in a crater. He was unconscious. Just a kick, and he's out cold? That's weak. Shin looked at the unconscious Inoki. The Reikage was much more durable. Speaking of the Reikage, he charged towards Shin, using his strongest attack, the Hell Stab, One-Finger Nukite. This was the Reikage's ultimate spear. No one had ever been able to block it. His right hand was still injured from his previous encounter with Shin, so he used his left middle finger. Shin activated the lightning release chakra mode and used the same jutsu. He hadn't seen the Reikage use it, but the principle was the same as the four-finger Nukite, just with greater piercing power. Shin wanted to see whose spear was stronger. He was confident because he had Tenmamai. If he was injured, he could rewind time. Their fingers collided. The Reikage was sent flying backwards, his left middle finger shattered. There was also a hole in his chest. He collapsed, sweat dripping from his face as he endured the excruciating pain. His finger was completely destroyed, and the wound on his chest was deep, almost reaching his heart. "Reikage, your Hell Stab isn't that impressive," Shin said, his left hand, the one he had used to clash with the Reikage, swollen like a carrot. It was painful, but he maintained his composure. He secretly used the mystical palm jutsu and his perfect sage body's regenerative abilities to heal the injury. It wasn't a major injury. He could heal it quickly without using Tenmamai. He did regret not using Sage Mode and the Lightning Release Chakra Mode together, though. He wouldn't have been injured then. The Reikage's out of commission. Now it's just you, Hanzo. Shin looked at Hanzo. Inoki was unconscious, the Reikage was incapacitated, and the third Kazekage was kneeling on the ground, tending to his wound. Only Hanzo was still capable of fighting. Hanzo took a deep breath, suppressing his urge to flee. He would face Shin, running away in shame was not an option. And it might not even work. He might die faster if he tried to escape. Chapter 140, Time for a Massacre. Hanzo looked at Shin, then summoned his salamander. The salamander immediately burrowed underground. It could launch surprise attacks from below. But it wasn't a threat to Shin. Even tailed beasts couldn't harm him, let alone a salamander. "Hanzo, compared to the others, you're weak," Shin said. He didn't sense much power from Hanzo. Compared to Inoki in the third Raikage, Hanzo was weaker. Kenjutsu, Iai/. Enraged by Shin's words, Hanzo used the body flicker jutsu to appear behind Shin, his sickle slashing downwards. The sickle moved so fast that it left after images. And it was coated in poison. Anyone cut by it would die. Half of Hanzo's strength came from his poison. But his poison was useless against Shin. Shin had already disappeared by the time Hanzo's sickle reached him. Stay down. Shin appeared behind Hanzo, his Kusanagi sword flashing. Hanzo sensed the danger but couldn't react in time. He was struck down. You three stay here. Shin sheathed his sword and left, heading towards the four Kage who were attacking the Konoha forces. Why didn't he kill us? The third Kazekage asked, struggling to his feet. He was the least injured of the four. Although pierced by the Kusanagi sword, he had dodged at the last moment. Do you want to die? The third Raikage asked flatly. They didn't know why Shin had spared them, but they weren't complaining. Susanoo. Shin activated his perfect Susanoo. Even in the darkness, the Suna shinobi could see the massive chakra warrior. It was a full moon, and the moonlight illuminated the towering Susanoo. Not just the nearby Suna shinobi, but the Konoha, Kumo, Iwa, and Ain shinobi could all see it. It seems Uzumaki Shin has arrived. Hiruzen Sarutobi stared at the Susanoo, reminded of Uchiha Madara. He had grown up hearing legends of Madara Uchiha and had even witnessed Madara's Susanoo. This Susanoo was just as imposing. Does Uzumaki Shin have the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan? Hiruzen wondered. He knew about the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Uchiha Kagami had told him. Kagami had awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan and learned many secrets of the Uchiha clan from the stone tablet. He had shared those secrets with Hiruzen. The Susanoo swung its sword, and the earth shook. The ground split open, and countless shinobi were sent flying. Many were killed instantly. Before they could recover, the Susanoo attacked again, inflicting even more casualties on Suna. Shin, standing within the Susanoo's head, looked down at the Suna shinobi without any sympathy. There was no right or wrong in war. He wouldn't show mercy to his enemies. Yamatsu Hirasaka. Shin opened a portal, and Tsukumo Hataki stumbled out. Tsukumo had been rushing towards the battlefield when a black void suddenly appeared before him. He had no time to stop and fell through it. He relaxed when he saw Shin. Tsukumo-san, tell the Konoha shinobi to retreat. In 10 minutes, I'm starting a massacre. I won't be differentiating between friend and foe. Shin said. He had brought Tsukumo here to relay the message. If Shin attacked now, he might accidentally kill his own allies. Shin opened another Yamatsu Hirasaka portal. Go through this, and you'll reach the Sandaime Hokage, Shin said. All right. Tsukumo nodded and stepped through the portal. A black void appeared beside Hiruzen, startling him. He raised his staff, ready to attack. Clang! Tsukumo was sent flying. Thankfully, the portal had closed, or he would have been sent back. Hokage-sama, it's me. Tsukumo yelled to prevent Hiruzen from attacking again. If he hadn't blocked with his sword, he would have been seriously injured. Hiruzen might look frail, but he was strong. Tsukumo? What are you doing here? Hiruzen asked. Uzumaki Shin used spacetime ninjutsu to bring me here. But that's not important right now. He wants us to retreat immediately. Tsukumo said. Retreat? Yes. He said he's going to launch an indiscriminate attack. Hiruzen looked at the Susanoo in the distance. It could indeed harm their own forces. All right, relay the order. All Konoha shinobi, retreat. The shinobi quickly gathered and retreated, breaking through the Suna lines. Shin had already weakened Suna with his Susanoo. There was no resistance. They even took the opportunity to kill some of the fleeing Suna shinobi. That wraps up this part of What If Copy System in Naruto. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.